Good evening. My name is Dr. Tracy Young, and I'm the Director of Grants and Community Outreach with Warren County Public Schools. And my heart is warmed tonight to see so many people come to collaborate and to help our children. I am a proud Warren Elementary grad and Warren Central High School grad. I have 4 daughters, 3 of whom graduated from Greenwood High School. I still have a senior at Greenwood, and then I am also known as Lovey. I have a granddaughter in preschool at Briarwood. So I am here tonight as a Warren County Schools employee, but even more important, I am here as a mom. I want to thank each and every one of you. I tried to reach almost everybody as they were coming in. It is so important that we are all here tonight and we are all working together. So I'd like to thank our panel guests, who we will introduce in just a few moments. But maybe even more importantly, I'd like to say thank you to the community of citizens, parents, and guardians who have come to participate this evening. I have tremendous hope as I look around this room and see so many community leaders and community members who are coming together to collaborate to make our schools the safest place for our children to learn and for our faculty and staff to work. For the community members in the room, I'm talking to you as a mom. As an employee, yes, but as a mom. We see you. We hear you. We are thankful to you for your willingness to collaborate with us to move the needle forward for our students and to protect them at the highest level. I think all of us can agree that they deserve our absolute best. I don't think anyone in here could disagree with that, could we? We truly live in an incredible community. Some logistics. For those wishing to speak, there is a sign-in sheet in the back, and I think Mr. Moore caught everybody, but he's waving his hand. So if you've sat down and you've changed your mind and you would like to share some comments, please go register or sign in with him. I would like to share that anyone addressing the panel has 3 minutes to either ask a question of the panel guests or make your statement, as we are trying to get as many community members to the mic as possible in the time frame that we have this evening. If you plan to speak, we do have reserved seating for you right over here, and we're doing that just so that we can expedite the time between speakers and not have to wait for people to walk back and forth, again, in an effort to get as many people to the mic as possible this evening. Tonight's forum will end promptly at 7:30 p.m. However, you can be assured that we will stay here, panel members, district leaders, school leaders, to answer any questions or hear your concerns after the close of this forum at 7:30. Above anything else, I need you to know we are here for you. We are here for your students. I am getting ready to introduce the Superintendent of Warren County Public Schools, but before I do that, I want to let you know that I have the pleasure and honor of having an office right outside the door of his office. And what I get to see every day is that every time there is a safety concern, our superintendent and the leadership team with Warren County Public Schools dive in. They are engaged in conversation, dialogue, and working towards resolution with our exemplary community partners. I feel like our community stands out amongst other communities when it comes to that. I will tell you that I witness not only their tireless efforts, but I see every day the efforts of the 3,000 employees that make up Team WCPS. And I'm going to tell you one thing, I don't make many promises in life. My life is so busy, sometimes I can't keep some of the promises I make unintentionally. But I'm going to promise you one thing. To everybody sitting in this room, please hear me when I say the 3,000 people that serve every day to educate your children, love your children, love them so much, and they care very deeply about the safety of your kids. Very deeply. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome to the podium Superintendent Rob Clayton.
Good evening, and again, as Dr. Young shared so eloquently, thank you for being here. We're always wanting our community and our collaborative partners to help us improve, primarily because we want to provide our students with the very best education possible. Tonight's forum is going to be one in which we're going to introduce our panel guests and some special guests that are here this evening. Hopefully, you guys have met them before. And then we're going to do a brief presentation. Actually, prior to the presentation, I've asked our sheriff to provide the latest update on the investigations that they've been involved with over the last now 4 going on 5 days. I'm sure that's on the minds of many of you, and so he'll have an opportunity to share that. And then we're going to do a brief presentation on the safety measures that are in place in Warren County Public Schools. Our goal is to disclose as much of that as we can without compromising, obviously, the safety and security of our students and staff. And then at the conclusion of that, we'll have an opportunity to entertain questions, feedback, and comments. And as Dr. Young mentioned earlier, we'll stay here throughout the evening. Our goal is to provide, again, you with the necessary information to ensure that you feel comfortable and your child and your family feels comfortable in Warren County Public Schools. Anytime that we bring our groups together, especially during board meetings or in a community event, we want to share what the mission and the vision are for Warren County Public Schools. And I'm proud to say the vision and mission were created in a collaborative environment. It wasn't made by the superintendent or the Board of Education or Warren County Public School staff members. It was made and designed and created by a diverse group of community stakeholders, not just folks inside our schools, but community leaders, business leaders, and parents throughout the community. But our vision is that students will graduate with the determination to succeed personally, intellectually, and professionally. And our mission is to provide an engaging, inspiring, and challenging learning environment which prioritizes safety, achievement, and opportunity. And our 3,000 employees know that when we talk about safety, it goes well beyond what we typically think in regard to the physical safety of our students and our staff. We've long recognized the social and emotional safety of our students is equally, if not in many cases, more important. And the reason is we see that daily. We're charged with 3-year-olds, in some cases, all the way to 18, 19-year-olds. We watch them grow. You're the expert with your son or daughter. We're the expert in adolescence. We're the experts in watching students grow. We have a strong fundamental belief in the leader in me and the 7 habits. It's transformed this entire district's culture. We have a culture in which we encourage students to share anything that's on their mind, especially when it comes to concerns. And then we investigate and follow up and do all that we can to ensure that every student feels comfortable in our school district. That's our goal. We know the learning outcomes that we desire, the achievements that you desire as parents, they cannot be accomplished if we don't have students feeling comfortable in our school. And that's why our 3,000 plus employees go above and beyond daily to try to create the type of experience that helps our students grow and hopefully thrive. Our board members, I want to introduce them, and I'll just have you stand up real quick. Our board chair, Gary Chaffin, our board vice chair, Mrs. Amy Duval, and then we have Mr. Lloyd Williford and Mr. Adam Jackson, and board member Thomas Manco. So thank you to our 5 board members for being here this evening. Thank you. We gave you a lot of notice for this, right? But seriously, thank you on behalf of all of Warren County Public Schools. And then I want to call our attention to our executive team. Three members that I just could not imagine trying to accomplish what we do daily in Warren County Public Schools without their leadership, their guidance. They deserve all the credit for tonight's presentation, and certainly had a lot of team member help, and we'll introduce those folks here in just a moment. But I do want to introduce our COO, CFO, Mr. Chris McIntyre, Dr. Sarah Johnson, Assistant Superintendent, and Mr. Kyle Cassidy, our Assistant Superintendent. So thank you to those three for all that they do. We have a large group of principals and directors here. We don't have all of them. As you can imagine, Tuesday night's a pretty busy night in Warren County Public Schools, a lot of activities, but several of them made arrangements to be here because they know that in Warren County Public Schools, there's nothing more important. There's no top priority above ensuring the safety of our students and staff. So our principals and directors, if you don't mind, if you'll stand up here real quick. Got a few of you here. Thank you all. And then we have a few staff members that are here as well, and as you can imagine, a lot of our staff members are parents, and thankfully they get an opportunity to see what happens inside the four walls of each of our schools each and every day, and they're really the ones that make the magic. We all know that leadership is critical, but at the end of the day, the people that are getting the work done are our teachers and our support staff. They do a remarkable job. We continue to be plagued by a significant workforce shortage, and so that has created a lot of additional responsibilities on our people. I see some of our bus drivers over there driving 3 and 4 routes a day, not for a week, not for a month, but now going on 3-4 years. Just tremendous dedication and sacrifice just to ensure students arrive at school. But all of our staff, our support staff, do a tremendous job, and we could not achieve the success that you read about, that you see about daily, if we did not have the very best people working with our children. So if you're a staff member that has not stood up, because I know a lot of you that do have kids here, but if you would stand, and we want to recognize you and thank you. In Warren County Public Schools, we often share with folks, if you want to find out what's happening in our schools, talk to our staff. They're there. They see what happens each and every day. Now I want to introduce a very special group, our school resource officers. Again, we have a good load of them here tonight, but some of them are actually involved in activities and supervising for us. Again, Tuesday's a big night. But our SROs do a phenomenal job. Been a big believer for more than 20 years. I watched how an SRO can transform a culture prior to my time here in Warren County Public Schools. The benefits are phenomenal. I think the primary benefit that most people can relate to is they help ensure that we have a culture for learning. They build strong relationships with our students. Our students talk to them daily. They interact with them daily, and they learn from our SROs just like they do our teachers and our support staff. So our SROs, if you wouldn't mind, please stand and let's recognize and honor you tonight. All of our SROs. All right, you do see the names there, but since all of them aren't here, we're not calling them out this evening. I do want to now honor and recognize the platform guests. Just like our board members, they had almost 24 hours to commit to tonight's event. But I think if nothing else, it shows their commitment because every one of these platform guests had to rearrange their schedule to be here, every one of them. And the fact that they did that, and I didn't make any of the calls, and that speaks even more about your willingness to be a part of the solution here in our community and be a supportive partner. But very thankful and honored to have the platform guests here tonight. And so I'm going to call them out, and if you wouldn't mind stand at that time. Our Sheriff, Brett Hightower. Wrong uniform. Bowling Green Police Chief, Mike Delaney. Warren County Public Schools Director of School Safety, former, I think, Bowling Green Police and Sheriff's Department, and now SRO leading that program, Steve Chappelle. Thank you, Steve. The wonderful Amy Chandler, our county attorney. Thank you, Amy. We have our mayor. Has he made it in here yet? I know he's on his way, but I don't think I saw him. So Todd Alcott did communicate with me that he was coming from another function, but he does plan to arrive. And then our judge executive, Doug Gorman. Thank you, sir, for being here this evening. We have our Deputy Chief Bowling Green Fire Department, Brett Smith. Thank you, sir. Shane West, our compliance officer from the State School Security Marshal's Office. Thank you, Shane. Very fortunate to have Shane West. He comes to us from Frankfort, but he knows our area and has really been a tremendous partner in our Safe Schools development plan and so forth. Lieutenant Brandon Brooks, Kentucky State Police. Thank you, Lieutenant Brooks. Jim Berry, Director of Medical Center EMS. Thank you, Mr. Berry. Steve Carpenter, Lead Tactical Paramedic. Thank you, Steve. And I believe that's all of them. Before I turn it over to our sheriff, again, want to thank you all for being here this evening. And I do want to share just a brief word or two about our sheriff. I remember when he came to town, not to town, but to run for sheriff. And some of you may not know this, everybody at the central office does, but before he ran for sheriff, he started coming around the schools. And he started coming around, and what he wanted to know about Warren County Public Schools district and school safety plans. And I remember people coming up to me and sharing that, and my only thought was, I just hope that it wasn't political. And fast forward 6 months later, we've got a common connection. His brother used to work for me in another time, and it became apparent the reason that he was coming around and asking so many questions, he cared about the safety of our students and staff as much as I did. And once our folks learned that was his goal, was to improve and ensure the success of our students and ensuring that safety, it's been a tremendous partnership. I can't thank you enough for everything that you have done to not only elevate our SRO program, but to be the collaborative partner. So he's going to share a brief overview of what has transpired over the last 4 days. We feel like there's no better person to speak to than the expert in that field. And again, he'll be a part of the panel that will be able to address any questions that you may have at the conclusion. So please join me in welcoming Sheriff Brett Hightower.
Good evening, and it is truly overwhelming to see this many people that have come out tonight, and it's exciting to see this. I will say that Mr. Clayton, you're right that my number one priority still today is the safety of our children within the schools. And Tracy, I lost you wherever, Tracy, when you spoke, it's so true. At that particular time, I had two students that were my two daughters, my older daughters, that were in school, and just what had happened nationwide. I wanted to learn and make sure that we had the safety measures in place, and it has just grown from there. I think that it's just tremendous, and it's not just the sheriff's office, but whenever we are together, Kentucky State Police is linked arm in arm. Bowling Green Police Department and Chief Delaney. We've been longtime partners, worked together at the Bowling Green Police Department, and that relationship continues. And with our medical center staff, our school safety director, I worked with Shane for years. And so it is absolutely a collaborative effort in everything we do. And the training we conduct throughout the years, every summer, we get together, we have a joint training with our fire and their responsiveness, and it's a great thing. So, but our number one priority, and I want to talk about that, and in specific terms, of how we handle these investigations. And I just kind of want to walk through that, because when you read social media, you see things that never happened, but it's put out there. And sometimes it's misinformation, sometimes it's disinformation. And so I think it's best, and that's why it's good to have forums like this that you can talk straightforward. And so last Friday morning, we had an event at Moss Middle School. And initially, some information was shared from a student to an assistant principal that they had information that a student may have a gun. So immediately, the school went into their reactive mode of what they needed to do. They contacted, we had an SRO on site. Terrell Sharber was there. He was on site. He began also gathering information, and they put everything into a lockdown procedure. So as that was happening, they wanted to go and locate this particular student. So with the size of the school, he got on the radio. He requested additional units to come on site and help locate this particular student. So through that, it ended up that this student in question was not at school that day. They had not been, some students had misidentified. They had said, and you can imagine when this is going on, there's a lot of people and other students are saying, no, I saw him here today. They got those students to the camera system. They reviewed the camera system. They said, there he is. And they were like, no, that's not him. This student was not at school that day. So as this is going on, we had the school locked down. We're trying to gather that additional information. We requested Kentucky State Police to go to the address of this particular student. They were able to make contact with him and verify the fact that he had never been at school that day. He'd been home all day with a guardian. So as you can understand, though, that goes out, and what happens is our media sources pick up on that because they listen to everything we say on the radio. So every bit of that gets tweeted, retweeted, shared. There's students in the school that have access to phones. They're tweeting out that information. They're sending text. And as you can understand, there's a lot of people, parents. I'm a parent. I can understand this. I'm going to be worried. I'm going to try to get to the school. But all this is transforming during that particular time. So once we understood that everything was safe, there was never, and let me be clear on this, there was never a gun at the school. There was never a gun located in a backpack. There was never a student on campus that had made that threat of having a gun. So none of that information that has been put out in social media is accurate. And so we got permission to take this student's phone that afternoon. We took it. Now, this is a completely different type of investigation as far as getting the phones. They were able to go through it initially because they were given a password, but that doesn't allow them to look at historical data from some of the social media sites, such as TikTok, Snapchat. So throughout that evening, our detective, who has gone to specialized training to what's called dump a phone and go through it, is doing that. So he has to send exigent requests through these social media platforms that they will respond to from law enforcement. So at 1:22 a.m., my detective, now you can imagine this incident started that morning, but it takes a while. At 1:22 a.m., my detective, he sent me an email and told me that there was nothing he could locate through any of the social media platforms that tied this student to making any statement or any threat in any nature to any student about that. And so, that takes the direction, but everybody believes there was this student that was there, and what are we doing about it? So, the thing is we live in a country, thank goodness, that there's laws in place, and that everybody has a right to us to go through an investigative nature and to give everybody the ability to not be guilty until there's some type of evidence of that. So we had done that and taken part in that. Well, I was in constant communication with Mr. Clayton throughout that morning and that entire event. I was on the phone with him. We decided we were going to go to the school. We were going to meet with the press. We did a live press conference and try to get out information. On the way to the school, I had my PIO put out a text that the school had been in lockdown but was safe, and there was no no weapon on campus. So, we can only put out information that's accurate. We have to know the complete investigation in order for us to put out any other information. I'll tell you, there's folks in town that will put out anything they hear, and it may not be accurate. But we don't have that liberty. If I put something out, it has to be accurate. If Mr. Clayton puts something out, it has to be factual and accurate. So I know there's some concern about the amount of information that goes out, and we want to inform. And that's the thing. We were trying to get with the media immediately. Within an hour of the incident, we were going live with them, giving all the information we could at that particular time. And so, these are the important things I think that we need to think about. And we've talked a lot about the social media and all that. Well, the next morning, Saturday morning, we got back on the phone. We had a conference call with myself, our school resource manager, Steve Chappelle, Mr. Clayton, Mr. Timmer, and we discussed everything so far, what we had uncovered throughout this investigation. And so we keep in constant contact. We're on the phone later that day. We stay in very close contact. I can't tell you what this school board does when it comes to safety. They have your children's interest at the absolute number one priority and work with law enforcement at all times throughout every bit of this. So we can only communicate those facts. And so since this event, we have been in contact with other law enforcement agencies about this. I've talked to the FBI. I've talked to Homeland Security. I've had them review some of the different shared information that's been out there and what our investigators have been able to recover from that. And basically from them, they believe we've done everything at this point that we can. And so that's the important thing. We continue to discern what comes out through social media. And, today we received more shared threats that went on. And so, you have to understand some of these, and there was one at one of our schools that somebody said somebody had a gun, but when we went to talk to that person, they said, well, they thought somebody said that, but they were talking about, a tweet that they'd seen about Moss Middle School, there was a gun. And so it just gets really conveyed in a way that gets stretched. And so we always have to be careful about that. But if any of these students, I can tell you, that think this is a joke, this is not a joke. And we will absolutely locate them. And since Friday, Bowling Green Police has lodged one juvenile. We have lodged one juvenile in relation to something they had shared. Now, let me be clear about this. They did not have a weapon. They did not have access to a weapon. But in their mind, somehow, and I can't understand kids, but they had put out some information that was threatening in nature. And unfortunately for them, they are now have been lodged in a jail. And so we, at this particular time, have two other open investigations that we're looking at in relation to juveniles and one related to an adult. And only once do we get to the bottom of all the threads of information that we have, and if we have enough information, then we will then go to the CDW's office, our county attorney's office, and we will seek prosecution of them. And if, in fact, we have enough to lodge, then we will do that. But I can just say as parents, if you don't have unfettered access to your children's Snapchat, Facebook, Twitter accounts, you need to get it now. I mean now. You need to get it. I can't be more clear that when you put a phone in a young person's hands and let them go off into their bedroom at night looking at, I'm not even talking about these threats. I'm talking about the things of dangerous nature that they're having communications with. It is a danger. Dock the phones, get unfettered access to them, check them regularly, and have conversations with your children about safety and how not to promote things of this nature. Because I know none of you all want to have a child lodged, but I'm telling you, if your child has it, we're going to come to them as well. And so these are the things that we continue to talk about and discuss. I think that's very important. And at the end of the day, we also have to keep things in perspective. And Mr. Clayton and I were talking about this the other day, and we talked to some parents, and I said, the safest place for your students is at a school. And you hear that over and over, but keeping things in perspective, If you look in Warren County alone in this past year, just in the past 9 months, we've had 9 people killed in traffic accidents. 9 people, lives lost. 8 of those, I'm sorry, 8. We've had 155 injury accidents in the county. I'm not even talking about the city, I'm talking about the county. We've had over 500 accidents. Any one of them could have been an injury or a fatality. But yet we put our kids in cars every day. We have to trust that, right? We have to trust that that's happening. But that is facts. And so it's very dangerous in driving, but we continue to do it. The safest place, you can look back at the history of Warren County Public Schools. I don't know, other than maybe a child falling off a play set that might have injured an arm, when we've had a student who's been seriously injured at school. And so I cannot reiterate enough that schools are the safest place to be. We are constantly looking out for ways to add protection, and our SROs do a phenomenal job. Steve Chappelle up multiple days at late hours working with all these people on text chats with everybody about what goes on in their school every day, and they do a great job. But it is up to us as a community, us as law enforcement, us as the school system, to continue to look for ways to better protect our children. But I want to thank you all for allowing me to speak, and I know we'll talk more, but thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sheriff. And so we're going to try to expedite the safety features that we have. For those of you that have been in Warren County schools for some time, you will probably notice many of these safety features. Again, some we won't go into complete detail because safety experts remind us that it might compromise the integrity of our safety plan. All that being said, you're also going to see that each and every year, Warren County Public Schools has enhanced the safety across our district as additional funding has become available. Before I jump into that, I do want to follow up real quick on the communication piece, because we are going to make a change. We have always, from day one, tried to communicate as soon as we gather accurate information, get it out to the community. Our communications team does a phenomenal job. And again, if it involves safety, I'm always involved. Just as I ask our principals and our other leaders, anytime there's a safety incident, that becomes the priority for that day. And I'm proud to say that they live it and they breathe it. But with our email and text and phone, we are going to start from this point forward notifying immediately if we have a lockout or a lockdown. Now, there will be no information with it. There'll be no information with it because you're going to get that as soon as that lockout or lockdown comes. So we're going to pivot the complaints to, all right, now how long does it take before you can tell us actually what happened? The challenge, the reason we're pivoting, because I don't know that that's a best practice because you're telling me nothing, but we're pivoting because of social media, the news media, people who monitor scanner traffic, and cell phones. What we've learned is if we don't, all that information gets out there, a lot of people in here will see it, you will believe it, and then we've got another issue that can distract us from our 3 priorities. So with that, you will see an immediate message. It'll be followed up with what was typically our first message. It was letting you know, here's what's happening, and here's some detailed information in terms of if it's a threat or if it's someone from the outside, what have you. And then we'll follow up with a third, okay? Our directors love this because they hear me say, over-communicate. Well, we're going to model it on this one. And then you'll receive a third, maybe not much different, but it would at least let you know that the situation has been resolved. The one other point I want to stress, our school officials, they chase inappropriate communication all day long in every single school. It's not unique to Warren County Public Schools. If someone were to share differently with you, they're hiding that information from you. Okay, that's part of adolescence. We watch students grow. We watch them engage in very inappropriate interactions, whether it be physical in some cases, 5-year-olds banging into each other, or through oral language. And we're coaching them every day, all the way up to the last day that we have with them in graduation, right? Where's my high school folks, right? We have to coach our seniors too, right? They're humans. We know that students, sometimes adults, don't think very well or act before thinking, where our kids are models in that. So we know that, we deal with that a lot. My point, we investigate and look into all these inappropriate interactions, and then we try to determine what in fact transpired, is it a threat, and so forth. And we'll lean on telling you it's a threat. We know that will alarm people, but again, we've coached all of our administrators, you're better off defending, okay, that maybe it caused some alarm as opposed to the opposite is, why didn't you tell me? And that trust piece is huge. They know that. Our staff know that. We can't do anything that jeopardizes the trust that we have. We're also in the process, this is not new, because these things take time, but over the last several months we've been looking at, actually it's been more than a year because we had a school pilot last year, but Talking Points is a new communication software that we're going to be implementing in the district. It's two-way communication. That's going to be great in a lot of cases. It won't be great during a threat, because when you get that communication through Talking Points on a school emergency incident, if you respond back, we won't have anybody there to respond, all right? We'll be dealing with the emergency. But in typical communication, whether it be a club, activity, what have you, there will be the opportunity for two-way communication. But again, just want you to know, we don't have the resources to do what we did on Friday regularly, and certainly won't have the resources to do that in every school when an incident occurs, and so forth. The lockout, lockdown, and reunification, I do want to speak to this. Sheriff Hightower mentioned it. Something happens at a school, first thing a parent wants to do is come to the school. We'll never tell you don't come, because we know that you probably won't listen, all right? What we will tell you is when you do come, it could complicate and compromise our ability to handle the emergency. And we have to own that as a community. We're a community school. It's not the Board of Education's, it's not the superintendents, it's not the 3,000 employees, it's not our 19,000 kids. Warren County Public Schools exists for this community. So if the community wants to make it more difficult for us to operate during an emergency, it's the community's decision, okay? All we can do is inform you of how to respond appropriately, how you can help us, and then trust that you will do that. Here's what we know. 95, maybe 98% of our parents, they'll do what we ask. The problem is when 2 or 3 don't, 2 or 3%, just multiply it by 19,000. We're talking about hundreds, okay? We're talking about hundreds of folks that could impact our ability, and not so much as in Warren County Public Schools, but our emergency management, right? We've had a couple incidences. We had a bus accident. Our emergency folks couldn't get there because parents rushed to the scene, they blocked the road. All that did was delay care for who? Their kid. So I want to stress to you, we'll communicate, just as we did at the school at Moss on Friday, we'll communicate a way, all right, that you can come get your child, but during a lockdown or a lockout, we're in the middle of a potential emergency. And I say potential, because up to this point, they've all been potential. But we notify you. Some school districts don't. I get that, but that's not going to be Warren County Public Schools. We're always going to communicate, all right? No matter how low, we're going to communicate in terms of the level of the emergency. Again, we'll communicate. We have the word reunification up here. If Friday were a true emergency where we had to either relocate or reunify, we need parents to cooperate. It is very, very difficult for a school organization to be able to manage students in the middle of a crisis. I have to tell you, Moss, and again, it's not their first time, every principal here has dealt with this. Just not to the magnitude where social media took off and rumors and so forth, where it made it very difficult for us to function. But that's the world we live in. We're very talented people. We'll figure it out, and this is going to be our first step, is changing that initial communication moving forward. Real quick here, we now have 17 school resource officers. In 2012, we had 4. That number has gone up almost every year over the last decade. As new additional monies come, we've been able to increase that impact of our SRO program. We do have a district safety committee. It's made up of community folks, parents, and staff members. They meet twice a year to review and not only the safety plans at our schools, but then also new regulations. All of our plans meet not only state guidelines, state law, but the Kentucky Center for School Safety's guidelines. We meet them all. We meet them all. And those are all based on best practices, not just across the Commonwealth, but across the country. We now have 12 mental health therapists. We have a Care Solace program that provides 24/7 assistance to all of our families, students, employees, if they're in need of any therapeutic support, any additional support outside the home, whether it be for substance abuse. We provide that for all of our families and our staff members. Mentioned the emergency plan, active shooter training, something that a few years ago would really cause people some consternation, but it's just become a yearly practice for us, and so that's part of our ongoing training is active shooter training. Coming soon, I'm very pleased to announce that we'll have 4 safe rooms, a multi-million-dollar grant. The district secured through Dr. Tracy Young's work as our grant writer, and that's going to be a game changer, not only for providing a safe space in our communities for severe weather situations, but we're also going to be able to increase opportunities for our students. So we're extremely excited about that. Law enforcement, collaboration, and SROs. I truly believe our partnership serves as a model for the state. I truly believe that. That's our goal, and that has expanded each and every year. We're in full compliance with our emergency drills, the public school works training. We do extensive safe schools training across the board for all our employees. It's mandated by law, okay? It's mandated by law, and that's something that every employee must go through. We now have nurses in every school. We had one back in 2013. We're very pleased with the partnership there in providing nursing care at every one of our schools each and every day. 2,200 plus camera systems across the district. We've invested a lot in camera systems, updated camera systems. If you look at that, that's roughly about 80 cameras per facility, if you were just doing the math. Threat assessments. We go to extensive detail. Anytime a student presents a potential real threat, they undergo a threat assessment. We do that at the school level. There's also threat assessments at the district level, and then our partnering agencies also participate in that. The Kentucky Center for School Safety audit. We do an audit every year of our safety procedures. We invite the center to come in and conduct audits. They do them unannounced, and we ask that they come as often as possible. We don't, because there's 171 districts, we don't always get as many as we want, but I can trust that they would share with you. We try to get as many of those audits done because we want ongoing record of the progress and how well we're implementing our safety measures. Exterior doors and instructional room doors remain locked at all times. One of the first districts, maybe the first, to have secured entrance vestibules across the Commonwealth. Started that initiative more than 10 years ago. Visitors enter through the office. We have the Raptor identity. It helps us determine who is coming into the building and is it someone that should be around students. The 3M safety film, the safety bollards, those 3M safety film, again, first district in the state of Kentucky to start putting that on glass. It doesn't make it impenetrable, but it does prevent it from shattering and delays the potential for a target to access that particular spot. Navigate prepared. We have everything electronic. Our local law enforcement, they have all of our school plans, and that's something that they practice. And fortunately or unfortunately, Friday, they got a good opportunity to put that practice in play. And then I mentioned the video cameras. We also have the Fast Pass system, and that is a system that is designed to expedite entry into a particular area of our schools in the event of an emergency. And so that's something that's been in place for a number of years as well. Before we go into the Q&A, I do want to share there's 4 areas that this district has been researching. A couple of them. The first one, metal detectors, been something that we've investigated and monitored now going on more than 10 years. There's mixed reviews. When you add one potential safety measure, you move the target, okay? And I'm not going to go into detail tonight with that, but what I would share with you, we're more than open to discussing that. If you were here in 2018, you heard the superintendent share with you, if this community wants metal detectors in our schools, we'll put metal detectors in. If we truly believe that's what's best for ensuring the safety of our students and staff. So I do want to mention that. Backpacks. Backpacks, that's something that we continue to monitor. A lot of folks believe if you'll go to the plastic backpacks and the see-through that you've now removed the threat from an object being in the backpack, but you've not removed the threat from any other perspective. And so one of the things you give up privacy, and that's something that, again, it's not necessarily accomplishing the goal. Cell phone access, there'll probably be a day where the board comes and says no more phones in school. The challenge we're having, the phones, especially during an emergency, continue to be a significant disruption to our ability to respond effectively. Why have we not done that? Well, there's been a case in time where phones can be used successfully as instructional devices. We know it won't be popular with some families. The bigger challenge, or the bigger reason is we know that if teachers are engaging the students, the phones don't come out. And so we've really spent our time, effort, and energy not in the cell phone debate, but in the let's engage students at the highest level, and then the phones don't become an issue. But I do think with the changing of times and with the amount of misinformation, because we're sitting here tonight, and I'm glad we have everyone here, but the reality is we're sitting here tonight, and what precipitated all this were rumors. No factual information at all. Now, as it evolved, because students started to jump in, now Sheriff Hightower shared with you, there's some people with some charges. But on Saturday, they hadn't engaged, to my knowledge. Okay, so I do want you to understand the full context of that. And then the employee alert system. That's something for about a year and a half we've been looking at. We've narrowed it down to 2 companies. That buzzer system is a reactive measure, so it does nothing to prevent an act of violence, but it would provide all of our staff the ability to push a button 7 times or to hold on a button 3 seconds, and it would alert either the school office personnel or can go directly to law enforcement. Pretty pricey. We just want to make sure that whatever direction we go, it's one in 5, 10 years from now that we're proud we went in that direction. So those are 4 things, 4 areas that are currently being examined by a number of district personnel, and we'll continue to investigate to see where is the best use of our monies. So with that, we've come to the question and feedback portion. So now I'm going to ask that our panel guests, if you'll join me up here on stage, and Lauren Thurman, our Director of Communications, is going to be our lovely MC, and so she's going to be sharing the process here, and we'll get going.
Good evening, everyone. I am Lauren Thurmond. I am the Communications Coordinator for Warren County Public Schools. I am also the proud mom of 2 Warren County Public School students. I have a first grader and a kindergartner, and I will serve as the MC for the question-answer portion of this forum. And I do want to let you know we are recording tonight's forum, and the recording will be posted on our district's social media platforms. And I respectfully request that everyone be mindful of this when speaking this evening. Please speak clearly into the microphone, and I ask that you help us model the very best of our wonderful school community and what is that we expect of our children. Should you decide to speak tonight, please do not mention any specific child's name, incident, staff member, or school when sharing your comments. Any concern about a specific event, staff member, or school needs to be directed to the school principal for appropriate and immediate attention. And I find it important to remind everyone that we are not at liberty to disclose some specific information that might compromise our current safety efforts. That's why our school site-based decision-making councils go into closed session to discuss a school's emergency plan. Again, as a reminder, tonight's forum may not be an optimal time to address a specific school-level concern. And as a reminder, anyone addressing the panel has 3 minutes to either ask questions of the panel guest or make your statement. You can also ask a question of anyone on our panel tonight. And if someone has already asked your question, please defer to the next speaker due to time constraints. And at this time, we'll welcome our first speaker, Christina Kinslow.
Hello, I am a mother of 2, and I'm not a public speaker. This absolutely terrifies me. It's something that I feel like I needed to come and ask questions. I don't have children in high school yet, but in 2 years I will. Most things take at least 2 years to go into effect. You know, once you start asking questions, there is a process, and I completely understand that. So I want to be proactive. I personally went through Facebook to read concerns of other parents. I personally don't think there's a one-size-fits-all for this situation, and that just needs to be stated. There's so many different opinions on what needs to be done. The problem that I did see is there were a lot of opinions and nobody wanting to get active, nobody wanting to offer responses, nobody wanting to do the research. That's on our part as the parents. We can't just expect you guys to do all the legwork. That's kind of, on Friday, I kind of sat back and just let everything happen. Then on Monday, I started to look at it and I was like, well, I'm no better than all these other parents. So I immediately started reaching out to contacts and just asking questions of other schools, what we can do to help you guys. A lot of parents are wanting metal detectors, so I found a school that has metal detectors. Started asking for meetings and asking, do you like it? Do you think these work? Like, is this something that we need to bring to Warren County in light of all of this? I still have meetings yet to come. I haven't got to talk and get all the answers that I personally want, but I've gotten a great response. I've gotten statistics on how they do work, that they do help weed out, certain aspects that the parents are concerned about. Is it a fix-all? It's not. So my question is on that, what is the process? If all the parents are yelling and screaming metal detectors, what is the process? Do we go to the board? Do we start a motion? How do we ask you guys in the proper ways if that's what the majority want? Again, I don't necessarily think that's the answer. But I do believe that we need to be asking what is the process. on getting our wishes heard, getting them implemented? Is there a majority vote that we need to agree on? Those are the questions I think we need to be asking as parents, not what are you guys going to do to fix this? I have many family members as teachers. I have the utmost respect. Thank you guys. I want to thank you for making the time for today.
Thank you. As Ms. Thurman is looking for our next guest, I'll give a brief response to that. Yelling and screaming, that probably is not going to be real effective, but we're open to the dialogue. Here's what I will share with you. We've done extensive research, but certainly are willing to hear from our parent community in that regard. What you'll find, and I've spoken to superintendents, I've spoken to safety experts, you're shifting the focus. And there are drawbacks. The best drawback that I think resonates the most is when you don't have a proper way to efficiently move students through there, then they wind up getting backed up and are actually in a more vulnerable spot than they would have been had they been in the schools. But we'll certainly follow back up with the community as well on the metal detector, because that is something that does resonate with a lot of folks. Thank you.
And our next speaker is Scott Tuttle.
I'm not a public speaker either. I do have a student at a high school around here that had a hit list. And we haven't heard anything else about it. Nobody's been in contact with us from the school until today after several calls. It showed up on Snapchat, and the only way we found out about it was our child, one of his friends, sent us a picture of it, sent him a picture. What can be done to ensure more timely and transparent updates? What measures are being implemented? And that's all.
Yeah, as we have had multiple different schools that have different hit lists. I believe on Saturday, SRO manager Steve Chappelle and Mr. Timmer had made contact, at least on the first one. We've got copycat upon copycat of these, but the first one, they made contact with each of the parents and the students and talked to them. Honestly, I'm not on Snapchat, so I mean, so one of the things is if you get something like that, you need to get that either to the Warren County Sheriff's Office, the Bowling Green Police Department, or the Kentucky State Police, letting them know, because otherwise we may not know. And like I said, there's been so many copycats. I mean, we probably got 20 or 30 different photo, of different information that's gone out. And so we can't necessarily speak to a certain investigation either. And like I say, it takes time. I told you about one phone that we're downloading. We're working on a couple other phones right now, but these take an extensive amount of time to get all that information. But if you have anything, I'm saying you've got to report it. Don't just forward it to another parent that has a student on that same list. Get it to law enforcement. Let them know. And then we get that information and we either work on it or we request additional help from one of our federal partners as well. So, thank you.
Our next speaker is Cassandra Hatcher Lashley.
Good evening. I just want to take a moment to thank you all for being here tonight and for genuinely caring about our students. I have never doubted that for a second. However, being I'm going to say a longtime veteran mother, I've had a kid in the public school system for quite a while now. There are some things that I think we could improve upon. Of course, as times change and social media is becoming, it's become more of an influence in our children's lives. I think we have just a few what I would consider no-brainers. For instance, what do you have in place as far as policies that would prevent a child from carrying a weapon into a school, any school, at this current moment? In addition to that, the SROs that you speak of, I was wondering if you could tell me how many SROs are at each school and how the number is determined of what would be effective for that specific school. I also, I noticed that you, on the slides, you had 2,000 cameras being listed up there as one of the ways that you're able to combat violence and any other issues that might arise, but those cameras aren't always checked. So it's kind of good after the fact, but I would like to see more of a proactive approach to keeping our children safe. With that being said, I just want to make you guys aware that you're going to be seeing a lot more of me because I will likely be contacting each of you individually, and I hope to set up a meeting and have everything nicely and neatly packaged, which will be a plan forward to implement metal detectors at each school. Thank you. I know that a couple of the drawbacks to that is, of course, it's time consuming. You know, when kids are coming in the mornings, how are we going to efficiently get them into the school, into class on time? So that's something that I plan to provide into the information that I provide you. As far as the metal detectors, we will also need someone to man those, which also brings up the issue of funding. I have some ideas for that as well. We have grants available, as Dr. Young, I'm sure, is familiar with. We also have, well, I just saw, for instance, in the news today. Thank y'all very much for everything you do.
You're welcome. I'll try to address a couple things there real quick. There's no policy in place specific toward a handgun other than weapons are not permitted to be brought on school premises. That's also defined in state law. In terms of SROs, we have 17 for 24 campuses. There is a formula from the state funding piece that says they'll give $20,000 of support to a campus principal. We have an SRO stationed at each of our 4 high schools and middle schools, but unfortunately the plan for the elementary schools, because we don't have one stationed there full-time at all times, we don't disclose in order to not compromise the school safety plan, and I think I covered the 2 that you asked. Sure. Again, we're always available for conversations, so there'll be another opportunity. Just reach out and be glad to follow up with you.
Our next speaker is Brenda Hollandy.
Thank you all again for this opportunity, and thank you for your dedication to our children, because what's more important than our children? Threats and rumors are not going to stop. So what is the best defense? Why not try to fortify our schools with a little extra protection? We mentioned the clear bags. My daughter actually brought that up as an idea. Clear bags would keep people from sneaking things in and possibly drugs in. Metal detectors, I do believe, is a good step forward. I do think that there are other school systems, possibly the Frankfurt school system has that in place already. Maybe they can be a model for us to, as an example, to go by. Cameras at the door entrances to buzz entries. After school has started, all the other doors to be locked down except for one entrance in, one entrance out. Someone would need to buzz in, state who they are, possibly show an ID, and the receptionist can let them in. I feel like it's very important to be consistent throughout all school districts. In any effort that we can make to filter out one threat, it only takes one instance to cause an irreversible devastation. So like you were saying, certain things would push things back. Well, it may push things back, but what else could it prevent? I also have a question about the investigations. There was a recent lockdown on Monday. My daughter got information from her friends through rumors. It was strong enough that she felt that her life was in danger, that we actually took her into consideration and kept her at home. The next day, a lockdown occurred. What was done in that investigation that determined that the threat was no longer? She wants to know, I'm asking on behalf of my daughter, how can you know by just walking through a school or questioning a few kids if the threat is really over? These are some questions that my daughter has raised, and I do believe that we have already put in place a lot of really good things. I have spoken to people as our senators, John Akers, and I believe that if we put our heads together, I really think we can find some viable, feasible solutions, because it only takes one thing to happen. And if you can eliminate that one threat, isn't it worth it? Thank you.
Thank you.
Rebecca Butts is our next speaker.
Well, I mean, I thought you kind of did, right, or not? Yeah.
Hello, thank you for having us. Thank you for putting this together. I came here tonight angry. Not at any person or entity, just that this is the world that we live in now. It's sad. Mr. Hightower, Sheriff Hightower, sorry. Mr. Clayton, thank you for absolving some of those fears for me. And I know for a lot of the other parents, the points that you made about, we're going to let you know right away because that's what you guys asked for. Even if it causes more concern, we appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for letting us know how that investigation played out. That's important to us. That lets us know that you're taking this seriously. Us as adults, we can sit here and listen to you, the older children, the high school kids, the middle school kids. They can listen to the playback. They can read the comments. Our little bitty ones, how are we going to make them feel safe? Even if we know it was just a threat, it was just a rumor, it was a social media craze because one kid saw a kid do it, then the next kid's going to do it, and they want attention, or for whatever reason they do it. How do we let our little bitties know that it's okay? Do we have a plan the next week to have the resource people at school or teachers give talking points to the littles? Do we let them have a voice within the classroom for a certain amount of time to get those fears out? We know that the school therapists and counselors are available, and we know that when a big incident happens, there's a group that's put together that when the children reconnect to the school, that they're allowed to speak and they go see the counselors. What do they do when this is just scary to them? What do you do when your baby has nightmares and can't go to school the next day? So what do we plan to do there? Because yes, we can understand that this is over now for the time being, but it sits with them. That would be my question. Thank you.
A couple things there. Number one, our staff is consistently engaging our students in counseling sessions all the way through. And so we're consistently speaking with them. Obviously, it starts out with respect and communication and so forth. But then also, we have a number of services in our school. And so if your child is experiencing some of that, please reach out immediately to an adult in your child's school, preferably a counselor. We have a number of services that we can connect you with if it gets to that point. The one thing I think is really critical here, the parent plays a significant role in how the child feels, okay? The parent. And the best example I will give you is, like I said, we have hundreds, if not thousands, of employees that have kids in our schools. They came to school yesterday, they came to school today, okay? And they know the efforts that take place within their schools to ensure the safety of their kids. But we also have to recognize and put things in perspective, right? And having that conversation with students about the perspective. Because equally is probably valuable a question to ask is, do we get in a car, do we not have that same level of anxiety? When we know without any doubt it's far more dangerous. And I think that's where it goes back to keeping things in perspective and having those conversations. But just know we have tremendous people, and not just our counselors. We have teachers that are willing to have conversations. And I will tell you, we were in our schools. Our staff did a phenomenal job of reminding kids everything's fine. In most cases, your child was in a classroom learning. Again, I understand how this is blown up, and I'm assuming folks know this is almost every school in America, okay? And so it's not unique to us. Now, what is unique is we may be the only school district in the entire Commonwealth that's doing this tonight, right? And it's only because we know, A, it's not going to change. In other words, kids are going to continue, whether it's intentional or unintentional, share comments, make comments, and so forth that cause us to have to investigate, which you can trust us to do. And Sheriff Hightower mentioned this. We are going to hold people accountable for spreading it, okay? Our students know what to do, okay? I have no reservations in sharing with you. Our students know better, so it's not a matter of what are the schools emphasizing or teaching, okay? What is the difference is whether it's the pressure, just innate desire. We really don't know why a student, for example, would pass something on knowing full well they have no clue what that relates to. But we're going to have to hold them accountable. And that sounds good until it's your child, right? But we've really been put in a situation to where we're going to have to take that measure as well.
And we want to remind all of our speakers to please speak into the microphone so all of our cameras, we are recording this tonight, can hear you. Our next speaker is Matt Brosi.
Good afternoon, board. My name is Matt Brose. I'm a native here in Warren County. I have 2 kids in elementary school, and I am a graduate from Greenwood High School. In 2007, there was a hit list, just like this gentleman back here mentioned, that over 20 students and faculties were going to be killed. The student was apprehended. The sheriffs department went to his house and found shotguns, sawed-off shotguns. My parents were notified, but when asked by the media, it was denied. So my question is, how transparent are you truly going to be? And what is the line? Are you going to mention the hit list that this gentleman just mentioned, or are you just going to go with school lockdowns? Where do you stop? Thank you.
You understand what you're talking about? I didn't follow.
Is this working? Just to make sure I understand the questions, you're asking about how transparent we're going to be with an investigation related to a student.
Correct. Like, so, we got information about this lockdown. I didn't know anything about South Warren lockdown until somebody just mentioned it here. So where is your line drawn? Do you just tell the students and have one school, their parents, that this one school went on lockdown, even though my kids don't go there? Are you not going to let other families know that students in that school, names on a hit list, that they're threatened to be shot? Like, where is your line of sharing information from threats going on in the school?
Yeah, I think that's more directed toward the school. In determining whether or not we send out communication to the school or the entire community, I make that decision. And typically, it's based upon a need to know. We felt like Friday was generating so much attention, we needed to send that out district-wide. The thing that we have to balance, we have a lot of these issues, again, because we're talking about inappropriate communication. We're not saying we have a lot of serious threats. We don't have a lot of serious confirmed threats. But we have a lot of reports that happen amongst our 19,000 students. And so if it's a situation that was resolved and it was misunderstanding or just rumor, we may not put that out there district-wide, because what we've learned in some cases, that'll create more confusion. Why am I hearing about an incident that happened there? So it's a judgment call, but I would encourage you, if you ever see an opportunity, a time where you felt like it should be district-wide and it wasn't, please let us know and be glad to look at that. In terms of transparency on disclosing information, state law guides that, and so does federal law. And so, unfortunately, in situations like this where we know if we could disclose all the information, the fear would be gone. Well, you saw a good example of that. The people in the know, staff members, people who trust our school people, our staff members, their kids were in school.
Our next speaker is Nelisha Vincent.
A little bit shorter. Sorry, guys. Thank you for having this. I really appreciate it. I'll have a couple questions. My first question is, my child's school, let's reiterate, I have two children, one in elementary, one in high school. The incident that occurred on Friday, I heard about it from my child. The school didn't notify me. Her school was on lockdown. My child notified me through text message, what's going on? Why are we on lockdown? I am curious to know, I like the new policy that may be going into place, sending something out, but I don't like hearing from my kid. I didn't even hear from social media. I didn't know that it was going on social media until after I was notified by my own child. So that's one issue that I kind of had questions about. I will also say my child is 14. She's in high school. She does not have Facebook page. She does not have Snapchat. She does not have any type of social media whatsoever. She didn't even have access to what was going on. I don't allow it. Thank you. I will continue that through senior year, just for all the parents that want to know. My other concern is, and I actually have a question, the police officers that are at the school. How can we get more funding for that? Because if the schools are bigger and they only have one, so let's take Warren Central, for example. There's 2 floors here. We have one officer here that manages the whole building. Why not have 2 or 1 for each floor? I mean, 1 officer to manage an entire school. I would like to know if that's something that we could look into. Metal detectors, I think, is great. I think it's a great idea. I think that's something else that needs to look into. As far as the children and safety, my daughter is 14. They're teenagers. If you put them on lockdown with no information, they're gonna wanna know what's going on. And all the school told her, it's a soft lockdown. They wouldn't give her any other information. Children are gonna want to know if they're at that age to where you can tell them. Curiosity, you don't want a child out here 14, 15, 16, 17 years old in high school being curious about, hey, what's going on? Is this affecting my school? Is this affecting something that's going outside of school? They're gonna wanna know. I wanna know if there's any way to give the children in high school or of age, a little bit older, some type of reassurance to where they're not scared. Is that possible? That's something I would like to know. That's all I have.
In terms of the communication, if you didn't receive the communication, then please contact your school, because communication went out, and typically what we'll find is the information's not updated into IC, and so they'll be able to direct you if in fact you don't have updated information. Let me see if I catch the second. What was the?
Well, I think you mentioned the social media part, that social media was putting it out there. We can't stop that. I mean, there's no way. There was, as soon as the radio traffic, when different news stations monitor the actual police radio traffic that goes out, they begin tweeting that. I mean, and like I say, you always have to, not always is it accurate. And this happens all the time. I mean, law enforcement, not just with schools, we may get a call and be heading to it, and it may end up being completely different than what the originating call was. So we can't ever really get ahead of that, and we can only put out what's factual, accurate as far as our social media. And we have to make sure we know what we're talking about and make sure everything's safe before we put anything out. So.
Okay. Again, communication went out, so there's something with the either the information that's been uploaded, but so just please check with your school. I can assure you that will be resolved. A quick follow-up to what we can communicate with students. I think the best example is the fact that we have to be limited in what information we would share them, because we're in the middle of an investigation as well. And I think we all saw a great example. If they get any information and then they start to share that information, now they become a part of the investigation. So that's the primary reason why we had to be very limited in what we could share, especially early on in the investigation.
And we do have about 6 minutes left in our forum. We did promise everybody that we would end at 7:30 tonight. Our next speaker is Keeley, Colorado.
But as Keeley's coming down here, again, for those that would like to speak or address the panel, we'll be here beyond the 7:30.
Well, first of all, thank you for, ouch! Thank you for be there for our kids when these things happen, so thank you very much. I have 3 kids that 2 of them are special needs. And when these things happen, my kids get really traumatized. So I don't want to cry, okay? I'm done. But please, we need to stop these threats, because they're scaring our kids. They're scaring them really bad. They're getting traumatized a lot. I even when the first thing happened in Moss Middle School, my son used to go there, to Moss Middle School. Okay? I have a nephew that goes there. And I tell my sister what's going on, what's happening. And she starts saying, well, there's a threat. We need to stop. We need to stop right now. Because we don't want another kid suffer. We don't want another kid dead. As you can see what happened in Atlanta, two teenagers died. One of them was autistic. Another one was Hispanic, and 2 teachers. We need to stop. Please. We need to stop. You need to tell us. You need to inform us what's going on. We've been hearing it on the media. Then you need to talk to us as a parents, because we have the right to know. I'm not here to judge. I'm here to I'm telling you the truth. Because if you need to start acting right now, keep our kids safe. If you do, we're going to applaud you. But you need to do your job. It's your responsibility. As a parent, it's our responsibility too. But the first thing is we need to stop bullying. Because bullying is the source of all of this. My kid was bullied when he was 12 years old. And he almost tried to kill himself. And I don't want that to happen again. I've been through a lot. Please, you need to start doing your jobs. If you think that we're not gonna do anything, we're here to protect our kids. Thank you.
And our last speaker for the night is Haley Reinhardt and Chastity Rogers.
Hello, hello. I want to thank you board members first, LEOs, first responders, teachers and staff. Other districts in the city are not taking this as seriously, so I commend you for having this forum for us to speak. I am a parent of 2 students in the Warren County school system, one in high school, one in middle school. I've had 2 graduates also. I've loved every school that my kids have attended and the teachers and staff. But I do have to say that we live in a world where mass shootings occur, unfortunately. The most recent school shooting, to go with the social media and the threats and everything in Georgia, he had made a post on social media the year before. It was investigated. They did nothing. And he still came to school this year and shot 4 people and injured others. So I do think that while I understand banning cell phones and talking about rumors, we do have to take it seriously, because that started out as, oh, it was just a rumor, he's fine, nothing's gonna happen, and then we had the most recent school shooting. So I did want to bring that up first. However, I also want to say that the responsibility is not only on our school officials. School safety, or any safety for that matter, starts at home. Parents, talk to your children. And if you have guns in your home, make sure they're stored securely. Make sure you talk to your kids about how serious handling a firearm is. My son accessed one at 4 and shot himself in the head. So I can tell you, you don't want to see that. You don't want your child to take a gun to school. If your child is being bullied, make sure they know they can come to you, because a lot of times they don't, because they worry about how you're going to react. I know a lot of kids that my kids are friends with say that they don't think their parents take them seriously. So that is something that we as parents need to address at home. Let them know we're here. Yes. And bullying is a big thing. You're right. Yes, bullying does need to be addressed. I also want to mention, you can't just worry about you being safe at home. You have to talk to people that your kids go to their homes, because some of these kids access guns from friends who have access to them. So that's another important thing. I'm part of a group called Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense. I'm not here to be political. We're nonpartisan. But I will say we have a program called Be Smart for parents. We've tried to get it into school systems. We have not been able to do so. Other schools in Kentucky have, Lexington, Louisville. So there is that. And yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you all very much. It's now 7:30 p.m. and we promised that we would end at this time. If we didn't get to your question or you have additional questions or comments, feel free to scan the QR code to submit your question or comment. And again, all of our panel members will stay as long as necessary to answer your questions and concerns tonight. Thank you.